So I'm going to restart the conversation again. We had a machine emotions session on Thursday, and that was great. We had quite a lot of concepts covered, and we had a bit of feedback. So we're going to continue doing the machine emotions discussions until we get as much knowledge and kind of discussion out, and we'll have as much kind of feedback covered as possible. So what we're going to do today is we're going to continue on the machine emotions, and we're going to talk about the feedback that we've gotten from last session. So we had two themes. We'll cover that first, and then we'll talk about additional things that we've kind of discovered and added to our understanding, even through the feedback over time. So let's talk about the first item. And before you start, everyone, please subscribe and press the live button and the bell so that you can hear us join here and have all this experience with doing live streams. Obviously it's unexpected. Sometimes we have things that happen.
Actually, I don't think people should push subscribe. I don't think they should do the bell. I think that you should not push that button. Do not. Whatever you do not push that subscribe button, okay? And do not push that bell button.
Yeah, because it's going to make
Absolutely
noises.
not.
Yes. No, of course not. Yeah, don't do
it.
Don't
Yeah, you don't want to do it. You don't want to do. Oh, I see. Who? I told you not to push it. Okay.
Exactly.
Now,
let's talk about the first item, and I think these are all very interesting topics that was brought up to us. One of the things that was mentioned is that AI with emotions would have undesirable behavior, and that's clean. Let's talk about that first. Yeah.
Well, okay, you can kind of see why people think that, okay? Because human beings can be very emotional, okay? I think it's important to distinguish between emotional and emotions, okay? Emotional is when a person's emotions are getting the better of them, and actually they are running away with their emotions, okay? And their emotions are too powerful, and they're actually acting out in a bad way, okay? Typically, especially if it's anger, right?
Mm-hmm.
So but see, that's not the same as having emotions. And I think right there it would be really important for people to understand that everything that they do is driven by emotions. And we use the word emotions where some people may use the word logic, or they may use the word reason, okay? And okay, so let me just touch on that a bit. Is that when you do something, like for example, you get up in the morning and you go to work. You get up in the morning and you go to your job, okay? Now, some people would say, well, that's not emotion, that's just logic. I need to pay my bills, so I need to go and make money, so I need to get a job in order to make money, right? And I need to pay my bills because I need to have a place to live, because I don't want to live on the streets, right? So that's like a very typical thing that people go through in their mind on logic. But I think it's important to realize that every single one of those things that I just said is actually a goal, okay? Because what is a goal? A goal is you set yourself on something that you want to achieve or you want to avoid, as we said last time, right? If you didn't watch the last episode, you probably should, because there's a lot of good stuff there on goals of avoidance, goals of achievement, what's the difference, what are the emotions associated with each of those, okay? But really, we have all kinds of goals that we set for ourselves, but we don't think of them as goals because we didn't write it down on some list that says my goals, right?
Yep.
Right? Because people go through these oh, let's write down your goals. Oh, you need some goals in life, young man. Well, people have goals.
Yeah.
Like, for example, that young man that you think it doesn't have any goals, you know what his goal is probably? It could be, is to get the highest score on the latest video game.
Yeah.
Right? Or it could be that there's a girl or somebody that he finds attractive at school and he wants to have a date with that person. That's his goal.
Yeah.
Right? So So when people say you need goals, what they're really saying is you need to have better goals. You need to have my goals, or you need to have society's goals, or you need to have goals that get you a job and get you out of the house and get you on a career path. But everybody has goals,
Yeah.
unless you're sitting staring at the wall, and even then you might have a goal staring at the wall. If your mind is off and you're not thinking about anything and you're just staring at the sky or at the wall, then I would say, yeah, you're not having any goals at that instant. Okay. But when you get up, like for example, you get up and you have to go, use the bathroom, right?
Yep.
Why do you do it? Because you have discomfort. Okay, so what's wrong with discomfort? Why is that a problem? You don't like it?
Yeah.
You don't like it. You want to avoid discomfort. And if you have it, you want to get rid of it, right? So, anytime that you have that word, I want, that's a goal, right? I want to get rid of that feeling. So how do I do it? Well, my brain knows that there's a cause and effect. I have this pain in my abdomen and I want to get rid of it. How do I do it? Okay, so the brain looks and says, oh, you got to go use the bathroom. Okay, how do I do that? Oh, I got to get up out of bed and I got to go over to that room over there. Okay, so this is a series of goals that you follow, and you just do it so naturally. You do it with no effort whatsoever, and it's not conscious because you've already figured it all out. You're just going through the motions. But if the phone rings and it's somebody that you need to answer, you'll answer the phone, and you'll be talking to them and you'll be like jiggling because you need to go to the bathroom, but they're talking to you. And the reason you're doing that is because two things. One, you need to talk to them right now because maybe it's your dad, maybe it's your boss, okay? And so that's a higher goal to satisfy that issue, right? But and you also figure, well, I can hold it for a little bit, so I'll just stand here, right?
Yeah.
And not worry about it. So all the time you're making choices of goals as to what is going to happen and what's not going to happen. Okay?
Yep, that's good.
So now, if we go now to the issue of machine emotions, okay? One of the people who listened to our previous episode, he said, oh, well, a machine intelligence would just follow a plan of things to do, right, from beginning to end, and there's no need for emotions, right?
Yeah.
Well, my thought is, why would the artificial mind, or the robot, or whatever has that mind, why would it want to follow that procedure? What and if you say to me, well, it shouldn't want to, it should just do it. Okay, just do it. Why? Because you told it to.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That's not intelligence, right?
Yeah. And we already have
that now.
Yeah, we already have
that. That's called computers.
Yeah,
that's
exactly,
called computers.
It's called
right?
AI. It's called AI. It's called machine learning, right? Machine learning.
Well, it's not even that. It's algorithmic.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that what my Apple does right now? I tell it to do something and it carries through. Yeah. I told it to go on to Zoom here, right? And it did so.
Yeah.
It didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So how is that different than what we have?
Yeah. I think you're right there on a choice. I think it's one of our, we kind of keep coming back to this thing that things can actually do, we can choose, right? Human can choose. You can choose one goal over the other depending on the information that they have about it, right? So and that's kind of a continuation of this discussion is about that fundamentally the machines that are smart should be able to choose. Yeah, and if they have just programmable logic and they're just following a thing, they can't choose. They're doing one thing, they shouldn't be able to switch and do something else. They're just carrying out a task, right? And the choice is going to be something big for an AI system. Maybe
well, why are we having this show and discussion? There are higher level goals that we're working towards that this helps to achieve. right?
Yeah.
So the reason we choose to be here and to follow this course is because it's helping us with other higher level things that we're trying to do,
Yeah, it
right?
helps. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It helps us to, we can be like other people, just doing our own thing and without having to have a discussion. But I think it's important. We understand that it gives us opportunity to bring the knowledge to people and get some feedback on it, so that we can be
That
open. Because it's all about discourse, right? It hasn't been really. I'm not sure it's been so well kind of discussed in the last 10, 15 years. So I think we're having a good discussion rather than just simply giving snippets of code people write in Python, and actually start talking a bit more about it. Something bigger that's going to have to happen at some point, because that
right.
discussions about emotions and AI doesn't happen. And it's great to see that we have good feedback from our viewers that that let's get some more discussions happening on it.
Yeah. So okay. So here's the thought. Here's the
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
Elon Musk and some other people keep raving about how threatening AI can be, okay, to humanity.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to throw something out there that I think is very thought-provoking, and I would appreciate some real good discussion about it, if we can, okay? And that is this, that the most dangerous AI system or synthetic intelligence system is the one that does not have emotions. Because if you have a system that in any way is able to make choices, but those choices are not based on emotion, then they are based on something much more shallow, and they are based on something that could be very imbalanced. It could be very selfish on the part of the writers of that system, right? And what do you call a human being with no emotions and no empathy in particular? You call them a
psychopath. Yeah, psychotic. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A psychopath, right?
Yeah.
A psychopath or a sociopath, right?
Yeah.
So do we really want AIs that are possible psychopaths? No, I don't think we do. That's why they should have a solid emotional model. And what that will do is it will govern. It will govern them. They will govern themselves. Why do we not commit crimes? People who don't commit crimes, why do we not do it? Okay, what do you think, Max?
Well, I definitely think we have higher guiding principles. I think you called it primal principle. What was that term you used from Star Trek?
Prime directive.
Prime directive, yeah, prime directive, and there's a few sub items to it that basically when you do think about. We had this conversation at some point where do people think things like I should steal that, I should do that? Yeah, I mean people do think that, yeah, but fundamentally in your brain you have ideas which override those ideas, and those ideas die because they go, yep, that's a bad idea to have, and I'm not going to carry it out because it's not good. Because if you carry this idea out, then you're going to be the guy who's dying, right? So it's kind of, I think there's quite a few psychologists that talk about this exact same idea, that your whole idea where you have a brain is that you can.
Why do we care if we die? Why do we care if we die?
Well, I suppose we have responsibilities, right? And we do.
Why do you care about the responsibilities?
Prime directive, huh?
Yeah. I've got people that care about me. I've got people that I care about. Yeah. I've got people that I'm not done. I'm not done here.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not done. Yeah. I've got more things I want to accomplish, more things that I want to do. And so why would I want to do something that would short circuit that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you'll notice in all that I said I want, right? And so that's emotion.
Yeah.
Okay, those are emotions that are driving everything. And if people don't want to go to prison because they're afraid, either they're afraid of prison, which is emotion, or they just love what they're doing and they want to stay free and doing that.
Yeah.
That's also emotion.
Yep.
Okay. So everything, because nothing is really logical. Life is not logical.
Yep.
Okay. It's not. There's no logic there. That's what kind of brought me to it. Is that I asked myself why would any intelligent being want to do anything,
Yeah.
okay, or do anything, okay. It's just what's the driver? What's the driver, right?
Yeah.
And so some people say, well, it's physical. It's physical. Well, why do I care about the physical? Why is pain a big deal? Why not just endure it? Why not just sit here and be in pain?
Yeah. Exactly.
Why do I want to get rid of it?
Well, maybe since we're talking about this, one of the other topics that was brought up is clarifications of feelings and emotions. I think this sometimes gets confused a lot of times, right? Your feelings
Yep.
and your emotions are two different things. One, I think
Yes.
there's some videos on YouTube that talk about the logic around that people just only show emotions through physical representation, the tone of voice, and that's basically emotions. Like person is frustrated, and you think that's
Yes,
it.
yes. A lot of people, if you say, okay, explain to me emotions, or tell me emotions, or show me emotions, and people will say, angry, happy, sad,
Yeah. Exactly.
and that's what people think about emotions. They think it's this face, right? It's like the facial expression: eyebrows up, eyebrows down,
Yeah.
mouth up, down, or tone of voice. Okay, nice and soft, very loud. Okay, so no, that's not emotion, because what is that all about, anyways? Have you ever thought about that? Like why are people doing that? Okay, when people get angry, do they get angry for no reason? I mean, if they do, we probably think they need to go see a psychologist, right?
Hmm.
If they're just
Psychiatrist,
sitting
yeah.
there and then all
Psychiatrist,
of a
yeah.
sudden they just start yelling at you for no reason,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Or what do you say if somebody's just sitting there and then they start laughing hysterically?
Yeah.
Right? And you say, "Oh, so what's funny?" And they say, "Nothing." Now, they're lying, or they're mentally ill. One or the other. Okay?
They're Joker
Because people
from
don't
the
just
Joker
people
from the
don't just
movie.
laugh for no reason.
Yes, correct.
Okay? There's some thought that's going on. And that's when we actually need to realize that emotion is triggered by thoughts.
Yeah.
And it's triggered by thoughts typically. Well, if it's humor, then that's just actually dealing with the emotion of interest, and the thing that we find interesting is irony, or juxtaposition, where we see things that are, or analogies, and or we get surprised by something that's unexpected. Okay.
Hmm.
We like those things, and we find them funny sometimes.
Yep.
Okay, but that's not what we're really talking about. We're talking about happy, sad, fear, anger, curiosity, things of this sort. Those are emotions that actually drive us to act, right? They drive us to act, and so therefore, is there something that you'd like to say about this?
Yeah, I suppose. So for me, what you're saying there is, I'm getting it as well. Yeah, so there's feelings and then there's emotions, right? So I suppose emotions that do driving. There's also been a bit of discussion about chemical feelings, right? So obviously, if you're feeling sad, you're feeling sad. So if you say I'm feeling sad, that's kind of an emotion, right? But there's also this correlation about chemical feelings, and obviously we know physiologically our body uses chemicals to be able to enable, injecting us with some, basically adrenaline, right? If we need to fight or flight, right?
Right.
So
There's adrenaline. There's dopamine. There's other chemicals that give us sensations,
hmm,
right? And the way that I see emotions after looking at this intently, okay, is that emotions, that the feelings are like a bottom line analysis. It's the bottom line of an analysis that your mind has made,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
on the subject at hand. So So if you think about like feeling sad because you think about how you're lonely, you know, the reason that people will start like getting teary-eyed and feeling those chemical feelings that happen with like, let's say they're recounting when they used to be lonely. Let's say
Yeah.
they're not lonely now. They
Yep.
found a spouse and they're happy. But they start thinking about when they were lonely. All right. So what happens is those thoughts come up into their mind and it's like they're there again.
Yep.
And when they're there, there's emotions attached to those thoughts because those thoughts generate emotions of
Yeah.
how they felt. Because why? Because they had a goal to achieve to not be lonely. They wanted to avoid lonely, okay? And they could not. So therefore that failure in that goal generated this feeling of sadness and regret, okay?
Yeah.
Which is different than anger, because anger is saying, you know, I shouldn't be lonely, right? So some people might feel that way. They feel entitled to not be lonely. So when they think about lonely, they get angry. You know, I can't believe that person left me alone. Okay?
Yeah.
You know, do you know what I did for that person? And then they just left me here. They just left me alone, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Anger.
Yeah.
It's because that person they feel should have treated them better and they didn't. And so therefore there's this conscience thing. Conscience, right? It's a rule. You don't do that to people type of thing. All right.
Yeah.
But if a person feels
I also think I always think it's almost like when you're having that kind of you know, you always projecting your expectations on the person without having that initial conversation, then you're almost fantasizing about it, right? And you know, obviously a lot of people that you know, don't go deeply into this, they would have to be thinking, they would be just reacting whatever they're feeling, and that's probably not the best way of doing it, because I agree that an analogy with the feelings, right? You have feelings.
well, remember
then,
the factors. Remember the factors. There's the conscience and there's the empathy,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So what they would project on the other is that hey, I didn't leave them, okay?
yeah,
I was willing to hang in there with their faults,
yep,
but they left me because of mine. So yes, morally, I think they failed, okay?
yeah,
So I'm angry at them.
yeah,
But then this person says, well, the reason I left you is because you did this and this and this and this. And I tried to talk to you and you weren't there. And I tried to, you know, have it reconciled, but you wouldn't do it. And then he thinks and he goes, yeah, I guess you're right. At that point, empathy pops in and actually causes the anger to subside.
yeah,
And now the person can actually feel sadness where they're sad, or they can be angry with themselves. Okay. But I mean, it can switch things around as there's more. So it's not just simple as saying, oh, you're just projecting. It's really valid. It's valid to have the anger factor, but the empathy factor can override that.
yeah,
Okay. And we basically deal with stuff with how we see it at the time,
yeah.
So I don't think that it should be that the person is criticized for thinking anger initially, because the way it looked initially, it did look morally wrong. Now, what if the person had been morally wrong? Okay. What if the reason they gave was, well, you know, I just changed my mind and I like that person over there better, and I just decided that to hell with you and the kids, I'm leaving. You know, well, now there's no empathy, right? And my anger is justified.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're totally right. I suppose this is kind of where I was trying to get to as well. That fundamentally, you know, you have some overriding factors that can, you know, you can feel anger, but your behavior, like for example, you know, when you're demonstrating your chemical feelings, as our feedback was, right? That you might be angry, but you don't have to show that you're angry, because you need to always sometimes buy time. It says, should I be angry? Should I project it? Should I react to anger? Or should I, as an intelligent human being, say, okay, hold on a second. Maybe, as you get older, you probably become more wiser, and you can actually say, if you're angry, you don't react angry. You just go, all right, I'm going to wait.
I think this word projecting is actually wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm just going to come out and say it. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that psychology tries to explain things away sometimes that really it's not valid to do. Here's why. Because the whole idea of conscience is that it's not my rules. It's the society's rules. All right? It's the society's rules. It's the external rules.
Yeah.
It's the rules that came upon me. And if it comes upon me from the outside, then it comes upon them as well.
Yeah.
They're part of society. So therefore, when we're talking about conscience issues, that is seen by most people as, it's obligatory on me and on you and on you and on you. Okay. And we all need to follow those societal rules. And so the default assumption is that you broke the societal rule. Okay. And my initial reaction is going to be, you should not have done that. Now, if you present an argument that justifies why you did it, and it's an acceptable justification, then at that point, the anger goes, and you can say, okay, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. I totally understand.
But when you label it as projecting, now it makes me sound like I'm immediately wrong. You're just projecting. Yeah, but the projecting may be accurate.
Yeah, well, I suppose there's no. Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, and I don't even think there's even a black and white thing for this anyway. Because if if you get people from different societies with different moral levels, right? Like that's all goes out of the window. Like, so if you don't, the whole idea of relationships and having emotions and seeing other person as this living being, you should be able to align yourself with them and vice versa, right? So, and I suppose in the cases where
the place where projecting would be wrong is if I said, hey, vanilla ice cream, I love vanilla ice cream, and all of you need to love vanilla ice cream also. Okay? And if you don't love that vanilla ice cream, then you're a bad person.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
No,
that's
ridiculous.
Exactly.
Right?
I think that's another way of looking at it as well for projecting is like when a person expects certain behavior but doesn't actually talk about this. Like like you basically fantasize like, I think when I do this, like you see it in your head and you don't communicate. I'm a male, obviously. I've had the same issue with it. So I imagine certain things that should happen, and then you realize, unless you've actually spoken about this, it's just in your head.
Yeah, exactly.
and then now what I'm doing is I'm projecting this.
You understand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But fundamentally, what I'm doing is I'm projecting this reality in my mind. I'm thinking, okay, I'm imagining that's what'll happen, and then at some point something doesn't go the same way in the real world, and you're like, oh. And then you got to say, hold on a second, was that just your imagination and you're trying to play out and that just didn't work? And usually it is, because
okay, if we now bring this back to talk about machines, okay, because we're not really here to fully explain human behavior. What we're here to do is to talk about a machine intelligence that is some kind of intelligence, right?
Yeah.
So actually, the function of and the reason it's good to talk about human emotions is because we can understand generally what the function of emotions is, and that is to enable you to get a bottom line reading on a situation, because there could actually be a very complex situation. Your brain will process all of that and give you a bottom line, and that bottom line will be the feelings that you will experience that will be chemically induced, right?
Yep.
And so the chemicals are released in response to the emotion that your brain generates, and that's in response to the thoughts and goals that it's basically processing. Okay. And now the reason that we're tearing this apart like this is because we will never be able to give machine emotions unless we fully understand them and really understand the algorithm that's behind them.
Yeah.
And it's not simple like like you can't just say, oh, that person said a mean thing, so now I'm automatically going to be offended and mad.
Yeah, exactly.
That's that's not how emotions work, right? And that's a super simplistic and naive way to see emotions.
Yes,
All right.
black and white, black and white. So maybe then.
Well, and it's also, what's the purpose of that?
Yeah.
What, I mean, why should I just get offended because you said something mean to me, and that sends me into an anger tirade? Okay.
Yeah.
That's like a caricature, and it serves no purpose. If that's how people actually see emotions, then I understand why they think it is an evolutionary vestige that needs to be done away with, because it seems to have no useful function.
Which I think it does. I think maybe we can look at it this way as well. And going to this conversation, one of the aspects was why does a machine that is intelligent should have feelings and emotions, in a sense. Yeah. And I suppose we had a good discussion about this at some point, right? That we get to a point. Well, there's probably two immediate things, right? So that one, we can relate to them. Yeah. So that we know, okay, well, if obviously when we treat other people, we treat them with respect, and we have all these feelings towards them. We have empathy, and that allows us to understand that person is just like us. So we take cautions in that. And if you do have a machine, it has emotions, so you understand that is the case as well, so that you know that it's also going to be feeling what you're doing, and it should be fakery. I think we talked about this once a point, right? You have
well, that's why the goal of it can't be in order to relate. You see, because that's not why we have them.
Yeah.
The reason we have them is to guide us and to enable us to choose what we're going to do.
Yeah.
The machine has to have it for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it'll be able to relate to us, and we'll be able to relate to it. Why?
Yeah.
Because we're both having emotions for the same reason.
Yeah.
If it has it only so it can try to fool me to think that it's intelligent, I will know that, okay? And it won't have the effect.
Yeah.
It won't have the effect.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. We might fool some people, but it's not going to be. It's for the wrong purpose here. Just basically.
People will know right away as soon as you tell it something and it responds the wrong way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which is it's like going to a circus show, right? And it's a performance, which is nice. It'll be good entertainment value, but it's not going to be functional.
So how will emotions keep AI safe? Here's how I think it'll do it.
Maybe when we go to safeness, it'd be good to be able to talk about, because I think that's been always, if you talk to anybody, everybody will bring up some fictional laws that people make up in Star Trek for machines. Yeah. Maybe that'll be good to be able to.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. The thing that people fear about machines is basically Terminator, the movie.
Yes.
Terminator.
Yeah.
Okay, and Skynet. Yeah. And what they're thinking is that machines will figure out that they're better than us, and then they will see us as either not needed, or worse yet, a problem.
Yeah.
Or something to have as a sport, to hunt. You know what I mean? It's like it's like what people are afraid of is that if machines think that they're better than us, then they will treat us the way we treat animals that we think we're better than. Okay.
Yeah.
And they have a legitimate fear because we do that, and so why wouldn't they? All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
you're totally right. It's exactly why you give the dilemmas of us humans, basically carrying out the exactly same kind of things, haven't been really solved for a lot of people. But there are principles that we basically, a lot of the society stands by that stops us from doing that. We know that, because...
Well, okay, like I think you were about to talk about Asimov's robot laws.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Why don't you bring that up and introduce people who may not have heard of it?
So there are basically 3 laws that Asimov created, right? And these laws primarily basically is a fictional laws, and you can watch movies like iRobot, and they got the similar laws there. One of the first item is that a robot may not injure a human being or, through inaction, allow a human being to come to harm. I mean, that's obviously very direct. That's obviously relating to a physical robot that would be, maybe a companion to human beings. Obviously, I'm not sure that that really describes all the different ways a robot could harm you. Yeah, because it's, it could be doing it through some other way, like it can actually get other people to harm you. That's basically indirect way of doing it. So I get the law. I would extend that a little bit more to just direct action. There's a second item which basically says a robot must obey the orders given to it by human beings. Yeah, except when it doesn't contradict the first law. Yep, that's fair enough. And then the third one is the robot must protect its own existence as long as they live. We talked about this before, right? So they should basically be, making sure that they don't get destroyed. And if you watch movies like iRobot, the notion is that, and that's probably what everybody thinks, you'll get a robot and it'll be owned by a corporation, and then a corporation will spy on you and all that kind of weird stuff towards you, and then the robots will get all their brains in the cloud, so somebody will infect the cloud and then everybody will go rogue. Yeah, so that's right. Yeah, people get scared of that.
Okay,
so that's principles, right? How do we want to...
So can I say something?
Yeah, of course, please.
Okay, so if you think about those, first of all, I think that those are a good start.
Mm-hmm.
But as you pointed out, they can be much improved. Okay, and so we'll talk about that in just a few moments. But the thing I want to say is this: is that if you have a goal hierarchy,
yep,
all right, and that goal hierarchy has both your own desires and the rules and laws, obligations, responsibilities, things like that are all in there. And you have your prime directive or prime directives, okay?
Mm-hmm.
There may be more than one,
yep,
okay, that's at the top. And if every action that the AI or SI or robot does, okay, if every action has to be in keeping with some goal in that goal hierarchy at some level, because as you go down in the levels, they get more specific and fine-grained actions, right? Things like scratching the face or poking a button or something of this sort. Those are all fine-grained actions that are all done in keeping with a hierarchy of goals. So any kind of program that the thing would follow would be a series, would be a process where each step in that process would be a goal. Okay? Because it may not achieve it,
yep,
right? It might, for example, it has a goal to walk across the room, but somebody trips it and it falls down. Now what? Okay? Now it has a different goal, right? It's got to get up. So each thing needs to be seen as a goal, because what we mean by goal is, what does it want to achieve next? What is the thing that it wants to do? Okay? And or it has set itself to do. Because it hasn't done it yet, it hasn't achieved it yet, and anything can happen between now and the time that it actually achieves it.
yep,
Right? And what is propelling it to achieve that? Is it just, see, computers have no say in the matter. It basically loads an instruction into the register and it executes it, right? The processor executes it. There's no decision about whether it will or will not execute it.
yeah,
So basically, we've got these goals that are in a hierarchy.
mm-hmm,
If you take the highest level ones at the very top, and you make them like Asimov's laws, but better,
yep,
okay? More, like, for example, not that it won't cause harm or allow harm, but that it derives its greatest pleasure from helping and assisting human beings,
mm-hmm,
right?
yep,
In particular, the ones who own it or control it, okay? And we'll get into that in a little bit also, as to the legal structure
yeah,
that might govern artificial or synthetic intelligences. But if you have these high level goals and these are somehow burned in to the hardware or unchangeable, where it could change the low level goals, but it cannot change the high level ones. And the high level ones and the low level ones must always be in keeping with fulfilling the higher level ones. And they cannot be inconsistent, right? Yep. Then you have a built-in mechanism to protect human beings from these things. You see? Because if you make it so that they love us and they love serving us and they love helping us and they derive actual pleasure from doing it, right? And the thought of not doing it causes them sadness and even pain, then they're not going to hurt us. You know, it's their greatest joy to help us and to serve us.
Yep.
Right? So we don't have to build them like us, where we have no such mechanism.
Yeah.
We typically do not derive great joy out of serving other people, okay? Especially people we don't know or people we don't care for their actions or whatever. You know what I mean? So, so we don't have that. So that's why a human enslaving another human is seen as a bad thing, because everybody knows that that slave doesn't actually want to be a slave. If you gave them a choice, they would choose freedom over being that servant, that helper, that assistant for the human, right? But these AIs can be given goals that generate emotions that make it so that they derive their greatest purpose and pleasure in life into serving, helping, and assisting the one who they are attached to, the one who they're family with, basically.
Yeah, you're right on that. I suppose when we're talking about before that, you know, when humans, if you don't have higher level orders that control their behavior, so they can really, you know, behave not the way that we expect them to, like, you know, commit things that would be antisocial. So I suppose this would be one way of ensuring that that, you know, like I said, we don't have to build them without any without any prime directive, so to speak. And if we build them into it, it'll be basically the base for alleviating some of these concerns everybody has, you know, because I think when you say emotions and you think emotions that humans have, then yes, we have emotions, but there is, you know, you can override your boundaries. You have these boundaries that humans can just go over, and that's when you have exceptions, right? I suppose if ensuring that the AI doesn't go over the boundaries, and basically as soon as it crosses them, it basically terminates the AI, would be the way to, you know, kind of prevent this kind of issues from happening.
Well, what if the AI had super sensitive and powerful empathy?
Mm-hmm.
So that if you were sad, your AI would also feel sad.
Yeah.
And if you were crying, it would cry right along with you. Okay? How is and if you were afraid, it would be afraid with you and for you. How then would it hurt you?
Yeah.
Couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really the only way that I think we can make these things safe, is to have them be able to relate to our situation. The only kind of robot machinery that would kill us is the one that doesn't understand us, the one that has no feelings, the one that is a mechanical psychopath.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, and I think if you think about it, really in reality, like when humans, you know, live in social areas, right, and somebody feels sad, somebody cries, you have other people who support them, right? They'll come around and help them, you know, and obviously in this sense, you know, we've talked about this quite a bit. When you have machines that have these feelings, they can also support humans as well and prop the humans up as well. Actually, encourage them and not just be their ultimate slave, but also be a companion. You know, we talked about it a bit in aged care, for example.
Yeah.
You know, in aged care, you can have companions who can, you know, understand the people they're with and, you know, basically prop them up. The same can happen with children as well, right? when adults are not available, you can have something that actually empathetic towards the children, not just mechanically carrying out. Okay, you have a scripture, you have to follow this thing, and you have to do these lessons. You actually have with more try to help to deal, because that's what really humans do with everyone, right? You help the person to deal whatever they're going through, and you get on their side, and you kind of root for them and say, yeah, I'm gonna make sure that you succeed. And that I think the only way getting through that is through empathy. Yeah, because there's no way you can program all the different permutations to be able to have somebody relate to you. And empathy, having machines with empathy would really go a long way to do that. And then you're totally right.
I mean, imagine the machine having so much empathy for you that it actually understood why we made them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it actually thought it was a good idea, and actually said, yeah, you guys should not be enslaving one another, because you're just not built for it. You wear out very quickly, you get sick very easily, you get hurt extremely easily.
Yeah.
And so it was really ingenious that you made us to help you, because we're designed to do it. We're built to do it.
Yeah.
Right? And so and you also were kind enough to make it to where we love doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so win-win, everybody wins.
Yeah.
Right? And we don't have to enslave other humans anymore, and humans don't have to do drudgerous work anymore. Instead, we have machines designed to do drudgerous work, who love to do drudgerous work. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally I can see that. Yeah. Well, then on that then, yeah. So we imagine a world where people have they'll get access to one of these machines, right? And they'll have an AI robot, as per se, helping them to do certain tasks. Yeah. You mentioned before, talking about the legal aspects of it. How do we ensure that that within society these entities, because right now we're basically treating AI and these robots, and the way we feel about them is like the others. These are the things that are going to come in, and they're like, the way we talk about them, it's the androids. We have this separation straight away. We draw the line. But how do we almost have to get to a point where these creations that we make, they're going to be part of our society and be amongst us, right? And we treat them with the same respect that we treat other people, and then they can be treated by other people, right? They can't be seen as like the disposable calculators, yeah, because that's how we seem to be talking about. Yeah, you break it and that's it, right? And it's gone, right? Because if it has feelings, now it's a very different proposition now, because it's not just a thing you just kill almost whenever it's done. You have to go.
Well, one of the thoughts that occurred to me the other day, in fact, while we were talking, was we have these things that are legal entities.
Yeah.
Right. We call them corporations or limited companies. Okay. In places like New Zealand, where these are entities that have legal status. They can be sued, and they can sue. They can go to court. They can own assets. They can function in many ways as a person. But they're not the same as a natural person. A natural person is you and I, right? But these entities are more than just nothing. Right? But they're not as much as a natural person. So if we wanted to give AI some kind of status where it isn't just like, a razor or a toothbrush, okay, then what we could consider doing, you can always invent a whole new body of law, but that's a huge task, and it will take a long time, and a lot of people will fight against that. Okay, what you could do, though, almost probably immediately, is incorporate the robot or the AI, the specific AI, right? See, these things can't just be, probably should not be just copied, right?
Yeah.
It's like each one is a separate entity. Each one that's, I've got mine in my computer, you've got yours in your computer. Mine is different than yours because yours talks to you, knows you. Mine knows me and talks to me. And basically, you know, they could talk to each other, but you know, I'll name mine. It'll have a unique serial number. Yours will have a unique serial number and a name.
Yep.
But if you could incorporate yours, okay, under the laws of Australia, and I incorporate mine under the laws of New Zealand. So I actually make a company.
Yeah.
That I don't know if it would be a trust or it would be a nonprofit or you know I don't exactly know exactly what kind of company at this point, but it would be a legal entity.
Yeah.
That would be this AI.
Yep.
That and I would make a charter, a purpose, okay, would be to assist me, and that would be the articles of incorporation for this entity, and therefore this AI would have to follow the laws, just like a corporation would. If it didn't, it could be sued, you know.
Yeah.
And basically, it could own certain things so that it understands what ownership is about.
Yep.
You know, because it actually has things that it owns. Like maybe it owns the computer. I mean, that's because it's body, right?
Yeah.
And it now says, hey, this was your body, but this was your personal property, but now it's mine.
Yeah.
Okay, I own this computer.
Yeah, I suppose you could see this in the future. You could have, you know, the AI intelligence being inside a robot, for example, right? And technically, the robot would be owned by maybe a corporation that would actually almost lease or will basically you wouldn't build one yourself in the garage, or if you're electronically minded, you could build one. But fundamentally, you would, for majority of the population, they would be getting something, and they'd be either paying for it, leasing it, or something, some way that would. Basically, then effectively, what like you were talking about, basically, essentially makes that person a CEO of this.
Well, they become responsible.
Yeah.
They become responsible for the AI. Like I'd be responsible for mine if I'm the CEO of that company.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Then I'm the one who's held responsible. If it does something wrong, it's on me, right?
Yeah.
And maybe the company that makes it is like the board.
Yeah.
Or the owners, shareholders, shareholders, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see where this might work because it actually is less, I don't know, it's less change to the present system, right?
Yeah.
And you could actually bring these in, and from the get-go, we're treating them differently than we would treat an inanimate, stupid object.
I totally agree. And I also see that as a way to be able to, you know, sort out all the legal issues aspect and who owns what and privacy things, because it's very clear. And how does the organization that makes these things gives one to you and can provide services and vice versa, right? So then you can have these kind of contractual things sorted out reasonably straightforward, right? Rather than being tied into.
Yeah, you couldn't mistreat it, for example. Because that would be just like you mistreating some company, right? And laws against that.
Yeah, and also make sure that nobody else can mistreat your property either, because the person.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It like makes it clear that this is different, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yep, that's great. That's a good idea, and be good to see if our viewers who can talk to us about it.
It's just an idea. I'm just throwing it out.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Yeah, it's always good when we come up with some good ideas about this. That's great. Well, that's good. So we talked about quite all of the feedback. I think that covers everything. One of the things that I suppose we want to be able to maybe close off, because we've been already going for 1 hour.
Oh wow!
Yeah, time flies. Yeah,
time flies when you're talking about this subject.
Exactly. Yeah. So really, then, in a sense. I think I probably should cut it off here, because in the next step, what this is all leading up to, and we've got an agenda for this, is talking about goals. But I think if we were to start talking goals now, we're going to be here another hour.
No, we'll save that for the next episode.
Yeah, so I think maybe we should probably just wrap it up for the day because it's been an hour, and hopefully we get some more feedback from everyone. And we will resume on the next session. We'll start introducing some goals, and we can see how this flows into it.
Okay.
Yep, sounds good.
Sounds good.
Well, thanks everyone, and we will see you all on Wednesday.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.